Now here is why we're all gathered here today. Valarie Perez-Schere is a co-founder of Fluid Movement, Baltimore's 21-year-old performance group known for its huge water ballet spectacles, and much more. Val's produced, directed, and written, costumed, starred in, performed in, and consulted on countless performances, large and small. Outside of the organization, she's the parent of 3 children, is a play worker at Community Play Project in Hamilton, and is a member of the 2-person Prince cover band, The Little Prince. Creative Mornings Baltimore, please help me welcome Val to the virtually hybrid stage.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really honored to be here, and I hope to do the subject justice. It resonates, it ripples with me. And yeah, this is actually, come July, we'll be 22 years old. And as a result, I have so many stories, and there's such a long history and so many things I'd love to share that I've made myself some cards to hold myself accountable so that I don't ramble off into the atmosphere. So I want to start with a story from the year 2000 when we did the water ballet Cleopatra. And I was co-producing Cleopatra down at Patterson Park. Has its own cast. Back then, we had a smaller cast of about 25 people, and we all met every rehearsal and tried to work out the show together. So we were working on a scene called Life on the Nile, and it was just a bunch of animals that were swimming and doing a little formation. So we had alligators and cheetahs, and there was one hippopotamus, and we had baboons. And we were sort of counting off folks who was going to be what, kind of randomly, who wanted to be this or that, how many of alligators we needed, or crocodiles, whichever. And so eventually we put together a group of baboons, and I was one of the baboons. And folks kind of gathered up together, and some kind of didn't know what was going on, and we started sort of meeting and said, okay, we're the baboons. And there was one of our participants was very upset and a little bit frozen and didn't understand what was happening and said, I'm a baboon, why are we baboons? I don't understand. And so we had to say, this is just the baboon crew. If you don't like it, you don't have to be a baboon. We just need 5 people to do it. And we just randomly picked us. And she started to sort of understand that everybody was just kind of randomly doing a role. And she had a bit of relief and said, oh, because I thought you were typecasting, because that's what people called me in high school. And it was such a profound moment to be vulnerable with veritable strangers in a bathing suit at a public pool, to share something that's really kind of a squishy, hard, old hurt. And everybody sort of paused and then moved on and did our scene, talked about our stuff. And when it came time to do the show, she was the babooniest baboon. She committed, she was dragging knuckles, she was hanging off of a light pole, and far better a baboon than I was. And the thing that struck me most is how performance can enable someone to change the ending of their story, can create a space for a cathartic moment, a shift. And so that sort of was an inkling to me, one of the first inklings of how truly powerful public performance art can be. So our origin story is that we're known mostly for our huge water ballets. They have 100 people participating or more. We have many, many volunteers. Our crowds can be 350 to 500 people, all squeezed into Patterson Park Pool or Druid Hill Pool, other pools that we've been to, public pools in Baltimore. And we do a lot of other shows. Over 22 years, we've collaborated with umpteen different organizations and people, artists, and we do roller skating shows, small gigs, dance pieces. We're in parades. We do all kinds of things to try and get people involved in and use different genres of performance to expand our accessibility. We started as a collaborative performance art group in 1999, and we were 3 women. Trixie Berniston, who was the founder, and she was the artist who focused on the spectacle and on making things incredible, astounding. And then we had Melissa Martins, who was a choreographer, and she made sure that we weren't just a bunch of people floundering around. It's not cute. It's not as fun to watch if it's just folks kind of having a fun time. Like, you want to see people having a fun time, but it needs to be a little bit amazing. And she helped us be amazing. And then there was me, and my focus was on community and collaboration. And that was sort of vital to me, to what we were doing. And so for me, the collaboration bit is where the ripple comes in. To me, our process is our product. The process is the art itself. Doing these rehearsals in public, meeting together in public, making art together, and having our process be visible outside is a key tenet to what fluid movement does. And it's what leads to, that's one of the drops in the bucket that lead to, or the pond that lead to us expanding and being bigger and making change in ways that we can't even see or predict. For me personally, fluid movement is my firstborn child. And it's a gigantic part of my life. My whole family, my mother, my husband, my brother, all 3 of my kids have been in shows or been part of shows. And my kids have grown up with fluid movement. It's been a huge impact on their life. They're part of this giant community. One of my children has been in many, many shows as a swimmer and a roller skaters. And they even directed a scene, which means they took charge. They were helping make big decisions, helping choreograph. And my kids have made some lasting friendships through their involvement in fluid movement, like most other people in fluid movement have. And back in 2001, when I was pregnant with my firstborn child, Trixie Berniston was producing a show called Cirque de l'Amour. And in it, there was, because I was pregnant at the time, she had the idea to make a scene full of pregnant women. I think we were about 8 women. We were all pregnant. And all these pregnant ladies came out in these bikinis, blew people's minds. Hysterical, hilarious. But I'm still friends with many of those women. That I forged friendships with them. They were brand new people to me, and we're still tight. They're some of my tightest mom friends. And our kids are still friends. So fluid movement is a big, gigantic part of my life. All my sort of octopus legs dipping into my different communities help me to connect people from them. And that to me is sort of my talent. That's sort of the core of what I'm most proud of, is being able to bring folks together and introduce people from all different spheres of my life. So over the years, people have met each other, they've married, they've forged lasting friendships. Upon watching a show, some folks are just lit on fire. They come up to us afterwards and say, I've got to be in this next year. Tell me everything. I have to do this. And folks move from sort of seeing a poster, seeing a Facebook event, to being an audience member, to participating in it, to, after a few years, maybe directing a scene, being a writer, being a creator, eventually producing, eventually being sort of a leader in our community. It's a very kind of organic structure. And these connections, those trajectories, produce kind of unpredictable gifts. Like folks get jobs because of people they know in fluid movement. They meet friends, they get connected to friends who live in other cities when they move away. So fluid movement is a shibboleth. It's a password into friendship. As soon as I know that you like fluid movement or you've seen something, we are friends. I know that you like the same things that I like. I didn't write a lot of this down as far as our tenet of body positivity, but it's so at the core of what we do, I sort of didn't even think to mention it. But we've always had people of different ages, different sizes, different skill levels. And it happens fairly organically, but it's because it's so well supported in our community and kind of vehemently protected and fought for. So I am a play worker, like we said, at the Community Play Project in Hamilton, and it's a profoundly meaningful thing to me. And what we do as play workers is we try to balance the proper closeness and distance and provide materials and space and safety, safe enough, not as safe as possible, right? And watching the feeling of joy that kids have when they teach themselves or learn something new, when they reach an understanding, when they solve their own conflicts with each other. That right there, those moments make something beautiful. And that to me is exactly fluid movement. The play is the work. It's vital to the well-being of humans, adults, kids, and adults are deprived of it. So we have a lot of unstructured time in our fluid movement moments during rehearsals, and where we get folks to kind of play around to choreograph and work out solutions. And I think we have a video running right now. I didn't know if we wanted to do the sound or no. Okay. But anyway, so essentially I'm a play worker for adults and some kid swimmers as well. And to create and to be a part of creating this dumbass nonsense, these little gems of fun, it brings dreams to life. It alters reality. It envisions impossible possibilities. It expands and expands. The ripples just keep on moving out. And it is real magic. It's sorcery. That is the stone dropped in the water that continues to ripple out in ways we can't predict, in ways that we don't ever see the end of. And so stepping back and being the broom, having enough distance, being the broom, sweeping ahead of the curling puck, that creates unpredictable ripples. I don't know where that puck's going to end up, but I just try and make a smooth path for it. And I mean, for instance, our variety show birthed 3 other performance art groups, and they grew in numbers. We never know kind of where a show's going to lead as far as its influence. So collaboration on artistic work is something that a lot of folks end up not having access to or experience with. And I've found that some solo visual artists have a harder time shifting to our sort of style of working. The collaborating is sort of new to them. They, as part of their livelihood, they need to own their work. And they have the produce, critique, mount cycle, and they need that. They need to copyright it. It's their portfolio. It's their livelihood. And for my experience, for them to let go and for us to let go is to be set free. Letting go of ownership, sole ownership. And so to choose and to paint and glitter your little pebble and drop that in the pool and see what other people do with it that's the ripple that's at the heart of my work with fluid movement. And we do what I would call placemaking. We've recruited pool regulars, lifeguards, rec and park heads. We've entertained senators, mayors, though some of them haven't liked our shows very much, local officials. And we've been part of shifting perceptions about public space in Baltimore, and especially in parks like Patterson Parks and public spaces in Baltimore get a bad rap from people who've never been there. And we managed to bring folks there, and they witness what the reality is. They get a more holistic and realistic view of what happens in Baltimore, and especially in our public spaces and parks. They drive in and see very lively space, green, beautiful, sports happening, all kinds of things going on, and this weirdo art that we're doing in the middle of a pool or on a street, roller skating. And just knowing that fluid movement exists, seeing a poster, seeing a Facebook, that shifts people's ideas of what's possible in Baltimore and what happens. And so even just that one little inkling that fluid movement exists and that someone has directed a water ballet based on Hitchcock and is doing it in your neighborhood pool, it shifts ideas. It has ripples. It continues to expand folks. It can bring people into the city and in changing their opinions. They'll come to a restaurant where they may never have driven south of Northern Parkway before. So we bring rehearsals to places and spaces that don't have a lot of art like this, that don't have a lot of public art. And if we do impromptu lessons, if a kid swims up to me and says, "What you doing?" I'll be like, "Okay, here's what we're doing. We're laying out. You go like this." we're going like this and moving around. And because of our flexibility and fluidity, we're able to do that. And that's one of the things I love to do. That's a big source of pleasure and fun for me. And getting folks to, performers to come and regularly be in a space and occupy this public space gives folks a sense of ownership and belonging in our city that they might not have other had. It's a touchstone of something fun that happened to you somewhere. We all probably have little touchstones where something crappy happened to me there. But knowing I spent a lot of time in this one little corner, and I have fun memories associated with it. It's another thing that kind of ties people to Baltimore and their community. So I just want to wrap up saying that that we sort of as a culture learn and are taught that fame and influence are vital to having an impact on the world. That a long CV and an extensive resume and big applause and Instagram fame, et cetera, are needed in order to cause and prove that we've made real change in the world. But I want to encourage you to just go out and do dumb, small stuff. If you're motivated to do any kind of art, any kind of creative thing, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to have an audience. You can grab a friend, a couple of friends, go in a park, come up with something fun, dance together, do even just a little, jazzercise, whatever you have going on. Every step of that process, especially when you do it in public, it has unpredictable consequences. It ripples out and you don't see your effect on the world. A lot of the things that you do, somebody walking by you might take a picture and text it to their friend. Be like, OMG, look at what's happening in my neighborhood. And so that little connection we've facilitated. Somebody connecting with a friend. Somebody might be walking their dog by us and have a little bit less of a shitty day because they've seen people doing some nonsense in their park. Takes them out of their perseveration about something and changes their day just a little bit. And those moments are enough. Those are good enough. Those are important. And cumulatively, they make a big impact. But even each little one is important by itself. And so that's what I want to encourage folks to sort of remember to hold on to in this moment when, especially when we've all been sort of separated from each other, you feel like it needs to be giant. I need to have a big audience. I need to talk to a lot of people and have myself be seen. And I guess your impact doesn't have to be big for it to be meaningful. And you can't see where your impact goes, how far it goes, where the ripple goes. And that right there, that's the art that you're doing. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I love it. Thanks so much, Val.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be invited.
Oh,
I really
I love
appreciate
it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now it is time for Q&A. So whatever platform you're on, go ahead and type your questions in the chat, and then I will be able to see it on this iPad, and then I can read them to Val, and we can have a great, collaborative Q&A right here with you at home or office or wherever you may be right now. But so when you're getting your questions started, I'll go ahead and start. So also, like, full disclosure, I am a fluid mover. I have had the honor and privilege of being in 2 of the water ballets, and they really are the best time. Like, I started by being an audience member, how many people are, and everybody in the pool, it looked like they were having the best time. And I was like, I too want to have the best time. And so I have become a fluid mover. But one of the things that I've personally grappled with, and that I know that Val wanted to include in the talk, and so we talked about how we could tie it in, and we're like, the Q&A, is the part about diversity within fluid movement. So I wanted, Val, for you to just talk a little bit more about that.
But I did write down a bunch of stuff again so that I don't ramble. But first, I don't want to fetishize the people of color who are in fluid movement. When I say we, it's not just white people. We are a whole lot of different people in fluid movement. So I want to make that clear. But leadership tends to be whiter. So over the years, leadership, especially when we were a more white organization, sometimes coming into Black spaces, like some of our public pools are, even though they might not be in in specifically majority Black neighborhoods, they are used by more Black folks than white folks or other people of color. So basically what we've done is put our bodies into place, is not just showing up for rehearsals and using a space, but being present for other things, being there for teen nights or supporting in other ways, helping to fundraise, and being open to making friends, just not focusing on our one thing and doing our play and then leaving. It's being open, which takes a little bit of courage and a little bit of faith to meet new people, and especially in a bathing suit, folks. It feels a little bit more vulnerable when you're saying, "Hi, my name is Val, and I'm half naked." It's nice to meet you. So that's sort of the main thing that we've done, is just be present and stay there and keep working. One of the things, always listen to Black people. So I am not necessarily somebody who's going to tell you how to solve the problem of systemic racism in Baltimore. But I have listened, and we have listened to a lot of activists and Black folks. And one of the main things that I thought was sort of shared with everyone is don't quit. Keep trying. What you're doing might not be working. You might mess something up. That is not a reason to stop. You have to keep trying. You have to keep doing something new. If you did something 10 years ago, it didn't work then, maybe it'll work now. Keep a broad plan. Broaden what you think that you can do. And establish friendships. That's what we do as artists. A lot of folks start a theater company with their friends. People make art with their friends. So you need Black friends. And in a city that is so hyper-segregated like Baltimore, that sometimes doesn't happen organically for people. And sometimes you have to do stuff on purpose and be extra vulnerable and reach out. And to that end, I've created some relationships that are really beautiful to me, and Fluid Movement has become more and more representative of our city. And we do that in a lot of different ways that I won't list, but that's a lot of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, we're all constantly on this journey of learning and unlearning how we can continue to decolonize and yeah, so we got to just keep working at it.
Keep doing it.
Keep doing it. So here's a question from Melanie, who's joining us on Facebook. She wants to know, Val, how has Fluid Movement adjusted during the pandemic?
That's a great question. We've taken a bit of a break. We know that so many people, and even in the very beginning, are overwhelmed with, like you talked about at the beginning, with just internet life. In the very beginning, we did a little bit of a variety show where people sent in videos and we shared them. We've done some viewing parties of old videos of our stuff. Our stuff doesn't film well. We don't have the Busby Berkeley crane shots of all of our formations and that kind of thing. And it's hard to take film from 100 feet across of a stage and also get high enough to see swimmers and also combat, urban interference, helicopters, police, everything. So, but we do have some videos and we've shared them and watched them together. We've done a meditative dance night with Maria Broom tonight at 7. You can get the link on our Facebook and our Instagram. We are doing Zoom with Kalima Young for yoga, a spring into spring break kind of yoga to sort of shake off a little bit of the school year and head into spring break, which Baltimore City spring break starts today, this afternoon. So we'll be together doing that. It's just little things, trying to stay in contact. We are moving on to, I wrote it down. April 9th, we are going to be helping to open a brand new, absolutely gorgeous rec center it's Cahill Rec Center, and it's near Carrie Murray Nature Center, Gwynn Falls Park area. And they have an indoor pool, which I think they didn't have before. They have an indoor pool, lovely. The whole thing is so beautiful. It's like a spa in there. And there's a ribbon cutting ceremony, and we're going to get in the pool and do some of our fun little stuff, which we usually do when they open the outdoor pools, we'll do part of the big splash, which is the first time all the kids kind of stand on the edge of the pool and we go, and everybody jumps in the pool together. And that's the opening of the pool for that year. But we're invited a lot of times to do a little bit of a sort of a demo or a little bit of a choreography. So we're doing that. We're going to be there to help with the ribbon cutting on the 9th. And then very soon our weekly dance series is coming back, and that has original choreography. And it's focused on getting people back together, and we're doing it safely as possible. And even virtually, if you don't feel safe, we'll be Zooming our classes, but we'll be meeting out in Druid Hill Park and doing our distance and just trying to get back together and move our bodies in fun and silly ways. Costumes are always encouraged. Even tonight, if you're doing the Zoom with us, the yoga Zoom, flowers, any spring stuff, a little, daisy crown, whatever you want to do, it's fabulous. Please dress up.
Yeah.
So here comes a question from Barb, who is joining us on YouTube.
Hi, Barb.
If you could pick one favorite moment from the past 21 years of fluid movement, no matter how big or how small, what would that moment be?
And if it needs to be a top 3, that's fine too. Smiley face emoticon.
Dang, I hadn't thought of that, Barb. That's a great question. They change all the time. My favorite moments change all the time. And I'm a habitual, unstoppable storyteller where I want to interrupt people and tell them, guess what, this thing that I did, it was amazing. And I had this wonderful time, this huge experience. So I guess I've had a lot of sort of life-changing moments. One, Barb, was when we were in the pool together and we had pulled off our first night show. We did a show about the War of 1812 and Baltimore's part in it during the bicentennial. Yeah, in 2014, because that was when 1814 is when Baltimore was involved, right? And we decided, well, it's about the War of 1812. We've got to do something at night and have lights and flashes and some sparklers and that kind of thing. But we'd never done that before. And when we do our water ballets, we set up and break down every single day because the pool is used as a public pool during the day. We don't just kind of close it off for a weekend. So we put away all the chairs, all the bleachers. We lock up all our stuff and put it away. And so we didn't have time really to figure stuff out in advance. So we kind of winged it and just hoped for the best. And I remember Barb and I looking at each other during the finale of that show and going, oh my God, we did. We're both like, it happened. So that's definitely something that comes to mind. Another moment is, I don't know, seeing sometimes video of ourselves because I'm so in the show. Like I'm not just doing my bit where I have a role that I'm acting or, my swimming or directing bit or trying to pull people together. But so I don't really get to see a lot of the stuff, but seeing video of Macbeth, which was 12 minutes long. It was sort of 2 sections. And we told the entire story of Macbeth in water ballet with no talking. And I loved it. I was so proud of that. Our music was great. We would come backstage in the middle of our piece and prep with some makeup and stuff. And people would be busting it out, dancing to some of our music. The rest of the cast was just rocking out. And I'm always proud of that when we pick really good music and people resonate with it. So those are a couple of my favorites, but I've got a million. I'm sure I'm forgetting some.
It's true. Like Val scenes always have the best music and there's just a big dance party. It's very, very fun. So we have a question from Madison. Any recommendations for how to incorporate play into the typical work from home workday?
That's a great question. If you are, there are people who are working at home with children. And so of course, play ends up getting involved in what you do. I encourage people who have children or who work with children in their home to, let them paint themselves with stuff, let them be naked and make a mess, section off a place where you and they can make a mess. Be like, and no judgment, no getting in trouble, literally flinging paint. And even if that's outside somewhere, sectioning off a place where you're not going to get hollered at, where you really are able to be a kid and you are in charge of yourself, you are making the decisions, that's beautiful. And it really can change a kid's life, even just moments of that because they're in charge of that space and they can do what they want. And a lot of times what they want is to make a mess, or what they want involves making a mess. That's a secondary issue. And I think that really follows through with adults. Give yourself a space where you can do anything. And that means both time and a physical space. And that you got to carve it out sometimes. And people tell you self-care, blah, 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 whatever. You don't have to frame this as self-care. Having it just as play. It doesn't have to mean anything else. You don't have to have it be art. Play for the sake of play is vital and ends up being art, sort of without you trying to make it that way. So just sectioning off a moment and a space where you can really be free, where you don't have to edit and you don't have to, where you're more doing like a brainstorming thing. There's no wrong answers. That I think is one way to do it. And if you can have friends on whatever sort of Zoom situation, or now we can be more distanced as it gets warm and you can be outside in public somewhere, bring a radio and stand up and repeat some choreography that you did in high school if you were a cheerleader or something like that. Teach something to your friends that you knew, line dance that nobody else knows. Just that is play enough, and it will open up your heart to being able to do more, I think.
So our next question comes for Erlene over on Facebook. How can fluid movement help aspiring rollerblade players start?
Rollerblade players? Like
I think like roller skaters.
Roller skaters, right.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting rollerblades. I have a bad knee, and I had been roller skating for a while, but I'm shifting back to rollerblades because I think it's safer. So high five to that. Right now, there's a lot of skating around Lake Montebello, and I don't know where somebody is located. It's a little bit east, but it's kind of central. It's not too hard to get to, and it's blocked off because of coronavirus. There are lots of other places that we did have those blocked off safer streets things, which were great for roller skating and rollerblading, and they've stopped that program now, but some streets are going to be getting that back. But finding a place that's got a decent surface and taking a bunch of friends, and you can work at someplace like Lake Montebello. I know that some of the skate parks, people are roller skating at the skateboard parks, and some of the tennis courts you can go to. So, generally, the tennis courts generally haven't historically been skating, but now they're like pump tracks. What are they called? So now I guess roller skating is now allowed at tennis courts, and that's a great place to sort of practice your moves. Again, it's getting in a group of people, and somebody is going to know more than somebody else. And teaching yourself and being creative is being self-taught. Nobody was a synchronized swimmer when we started. We had no idea what we were doing. We watched a bunch of Esther Williams movies and we faked it and farted around in the pool. And as a result, we kind of invented our own genre. So if you don't know what you're doing, great. Put on some skates, get some friends, play some music, do some dumb stuff, figure it out. I highly encourage. That's the thing I was saying at the end, is just do it. Get some friends, let go. You don't have to have a show at the end. It's just practice, right? You just meeting each other. It's just sort of like a pickup game, except on roller skates.
So here's a question from Kelly Quinn over on YouTube. Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, how much do you love Baltimore? And follow up, what is a place in Baltimore that inspires you?
10. I love it so much. I try to instill that love in other people. I try to show places that folks maybe haven't been to, or show them in a different light. And I adore it. Warts and all. And it can be a hard place to love sometimes. But I still do. I can't help it. And what was the second part?
What is a place in Baltimore that inspires you?
A place that inspires me. I guess places where I haven't seen stuff before. A lot of times I'm driving going, ooh, that looks like a great spot for a show. Like we did a show once on the Constellation. And yeah, it was amazing. Trixie Burniston worked at Living Classrooms at the time, and they were working on the Constellation. So again, it was this thing where we were sort of taking up space, and I feel a little bit of ownership. Like I hung out in the little under part of the constellation a lot. And so the smell of it makes me remember, and I still feel inspired by places like that to do something weird and fun. I can't think of any other ones right now, but that's a great question. If I think of one when we're answering anymore, I'll tell you.
So I think we'll wrap it up with a question from Alpha, who was actually our speaker last month from the Hot Sauce Collective.
Oh, hi.
And so he's asking like about the future of fluid movement and how someone could get involved.
So we are working on doing a newsletter so that we can reach out beyond Facebook and Instagram, because we have so many folks who just don't do that. And it's a challenge for me. I'm not great on the internet or with the website, but we're making it happen. So you can go to fluidmovement.org, and I think that we have a button that you can click on to join our mailing list, where you'll just get mail updates about the little things that we do. You can join our Fluid Movement community on Facebook, and you can follow us at Fluid Movement Baltimore, I think, on both Twitter and Instagram. So those are ways that you can find out about what we're doing. And as far as the future, it took a while to figure out this formula to be able to get 100 people together in a city pool. And it's hard. It's a Herculean effort to put on these things. It's ridiculous that they happen. It's always a magical feat. And every time we've done it, I'm like, oh my God, we did it. Holy crap, we made it happen. Amazing. So we're a little bit attached to that formula, but I'm hoping to to readdress that formula and try and switch it up so that we can create a little bit more inclusivity, especially as far as ability. And so that's one thing. And anytime we see a cool place, it's, again, like Kelly said, if we're inspired to do something somewhere, folks are inspired to do something at Lake Montebello. So figuring out, okay, where's an audience going to be? How are we going to do it? What are we going to do? We're going to keep trying to facilitate making those kinds of things happen. And we'll still stay involved in our in AVAM with Baltimore Office of Promotion and the Arts, lots and lots of other Baltimore organizations, and to continue to try and work with folks and do something new with them whenever we can.
Yay!
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was really fun.
Yeah.
I hope folks are inspired to look into both fluid movement and start your own thing, man. Do your own dumb, weird thing. You lose nothing.
Yeah.
Hot sauce in the pool.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Let's get the Hot Sauce
You're
Collective in
wonderful.
the pool.
And, like I've always wanted to have a gallery wall so that people can see stuff. We have long lines sometimes. I'd love a gallery wall where we're able to put up some folks' art while they're waiting. Say it, we're serious.
Alpha, get on it.
Mount some stuff at the pool houses. We have all these ideas. We're only so many people. We can only execute so many of them. But I'd love to get a little bit more connection across the different genres and art worlds in Baltimore.
Well, that definitely sounds like a ripe collaboration for Hot Sauce Collective and Fluid Movement Baltimore. So let's make that happen.
Yeah.
I want to thank Val again, and really now invite you at home or office or wherever you are to have a selfie moment with Val. So Henley, can you get back on Val, and at home, let's take a selfie picture. We're going to take one in here too. Sabina, getting it. I don't know. I can't see either. Woo. All right. So we're at the end. Thank you so much for joining us. I want you to save the date for next month's talk on Friday, April 30th, where we'll be welcoming the artist Charles Mason III to the virtual stage to speak on the theme of procrastinate. Again, we'd love to see what this all looks like on your end. So tag us when you're posting on social media. Would love to see it. And let's close out today with just some collective intentional breathing. It's we've done this a couple times now, but I personally find it very helpful. So hopefully you do too. So we'll just take 3 deep breaths. Invite you to close your eyes or put your hand on your heart or whatever feels good for you. So here we go. Breathe in and out. And in and out. And one more time. In And out. Thank you again for being here. We know that this can't replace the magic of an in-person event, but we hope that you feel connected and part of this community. We'll see you next month. And if you're joining for the College Town event, enjoy. Thank you.
Yeah.